Jai Hind everyone, my name is Ashish Kumar and I am Assistant Professor in Computer Science and Engineering Department in Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College, Ghaziabad. Today, I am going to discuss the topic Forms and Embed Multimedia in HTML. So, these two topics are very important. In this lecture, we will discuss how we can create the form and what are the major attributes and what are the various kinds of input element that are used to create the form. So let's start the session. HTML form. So forms are required when you want to collect some data from the site visitor. That means through the form you can collect the user data and that data is sent to the server for processing. For example, during user registration, you would like to collect information such as name, email address, phone number, gender, address, etc. Suppose you want to access the Gmail ID. So, for accessing the Gmail account, firstly, you need to register yourself on Gmail account. So, when you click on the sign in button regarding the Gmail, there is certain form is open. Like this is your Gmail form. So in this form, you have to enter your information regarding your first name, last name, phone number, address, password, etc. etc. And then click on the submit button. When you click on the submit button, your data is sent to the server. So form behave like a mediator between the client and the server. This is your client and this is your server and this is your form. So through the form we can collect the user data and through the form we can submit the data to the server. So form behave like a mediator, or through the form we can connect to the server. So a form will take input from the site visitor and then will post it to a backend. The data is sent when pressing the submit button. If there is not such button is available on your web page, then information is sent when the enter key is pressed. So now the next topic is inside the form element. So form element is used to create HTML form for user input. Here this is the syntax regarding the form. So form tag, here is the opening tag regarding the form and this is the closing tag regarding the form. So form tag define container. Okay, so inside the form tag there may be lots of different types of input elements like text field, check boxes, radio button, submit button and etc. So through the different types of input element, we can create the form in HTML. We will later on discuss how we can create the form. So the next topic is the form attribute, and it is the most important topic in the form. So basically there are three important attributes. The first one is your action, second one is your method, and third one is your target attribute. So action attribute define the action to be performed when the form is submitted. Suppose you can collect the information from the user. This is your user end, and you can collect the information regarding the user like first name, last name, address, etc. etc. So you can already collect the information from the user, but where the action is performed, where the data, where the information is sent. So on clicking on the submit button through the action attribute, your information is further submitted to the server side, or server is called as a backend. Okay, so action attribute define the action to be performed when the form is submitted. So if I'm writing the tag regarding the form action attribute. So the syntax like form action and action like where your data is sent. So action like backend dot php, my backend is backend.php, another action database backend.js. So this is the tag regarding the action attribute. So through the action we can perform when the form is submitted. That means your data is sent to the server when you click on the submit button on your form. Okay. Then next method is the next attribute regarding the form attribute is method attribute. So method attribute specify the HTTP method to be used when submitting the form data. That means through the method attribute how the data is sent. So there are two kinds of method. First one is the get method and second one is the post method. So how we can recognize which method is useful in regarding submission of the form? So how the data is sent? Using the get or post method. So get method is used when there is no sanction information like no secure data is available in your form. That means you can use the method get when there is no as such sensitive information. Okay, so you can use the method get, but using the post, when inside your form there is some sensitive information like password. Wait a minute. Like password, and password like isn't sensitive information, so that you can use the method post. So the form data can be sent as URL variables with method get or post, through which we can send the data onto the server. So by default HTTP method when submitting form data is the get method. Okay, so this is the schema regarding the form attributes. Like here you can see form action, some certain action is performed when clicking on the submit button, your data is going to the action page. Then how we can transfer our data, using which method we can transfer the data? Through the get or post. And the third attribute is the target. So target attribute means it specify, it display, it provide the response regarding the form submission. When you click on the submit button, there is some action is performed, the data is collect on the database server, then server is respond according to the user request, and the request response is display in your web page. So target attribute specify the response. So if I'm talking about the attributes regarding the target values, so there are 4 values. There are certain 4 values specified in the target attribute. First one is your self, second one is your blank, second one is your blank, third one is your parent, and the last one is your top. So these 4 values defined inside the target attribute. So what self stands for? It display, it specify, it display your response on current window where you have to work. If the target value is blank, that means your response is visible on the next window or next tab. Okay, it specify response on next window or tab, and the parent is specify response on a parent window, and through the top value it specify, or we can say it responds on a whole window on your web page. So inside the form tag there are some kinds of text element we will discuss later on: label, input type, values regarding the input, ID, name. We will discuss later on how we can create, how we can use this type of tags. So these are the text element through which we can create the boxes. Like input type text, here the name regarding input type text Ashish. That means for input type is equal to tag, there is a generate a text box like this, and the value of this field, input field, is Ashish. And how we can recognize this input box? through the name f name. Okay, so f name is Ashish, and last name regarding this text box is the Kumar. If you are using the input type submit, that means it create the button and the value regarding this is submit. I will show you the output regarding this is, as you can see here, first name, here is the text field and it will produce by the input type. Here is the Kumar, this is also an input type, and this is your submit, and this comes from the input type is equal to submit. Okay, so where your action is from, when you click on the submit button, that data, that is Ashish and Kumar, is sent to the server, and the name of server is your, what is the name of your server backend? Action page.php, action.php. So if you are using the method like, get, then there is no such sensitive information. So that data is visible on your URL. In your URL, that data is visible, like f name Ashish and the last name Kumar. So there is no as such sensitive information like password. If there is a password, then you can use the method post. Now next topic is the HTML form control. So there are different types of form controls that you can use to collect data using HTML form. So using these type of form control, we can create the form in HTML. So we will discuss each and every form control one by one. So using the text input control, we can create this type of box. Using the checkbox control, we can create the multiple checkbox like this. Through the radio box control, we can create the radio button, this type of radio button. Using the select box control, if you want to create the drop down list, then you can use the select box control, and the output display is like this. Here is your drop down list in which there are many options are available. From that there many options, you can select a particular options. Okay, so file select box, suppose if you want to upload the file on your web page, then you can use the file select box. So here, like upload file or upload the image. I will show you later on how this select boxes work. Hidden control, some hidden control through the form control, and clickable button through the like click me, submit and reset button, output will like submit, and reset. Okay, so now I am going to discuss each and every controls one by one. First one is the text input control. So there are three types of text input used on form. First one is the single line text input control. That means if you want to enter the details from the user in a single line, so you can use the single line text input control using the input tag. Okay, so how this control is work? You define like this. First name, suppose user enter his or her first name, then first name using input type. And what is type? Type is the attribute regarding the input tag. So type is the text. Okay, so this box is created using the input type text. So using the input tag, we can create this type of box. Next one is the password input control. That means this is also single line text input, but it makes the character as soon as user enter it. So when you using the password input control, using how we can use this type of input control? Input define input type is equal to password. So one box is created, and this box, inside this box your password looks like. So it is hidden from the web browser. Next one is the multi-line text input control. That means this is used when the user is required to give details that may be longer than a single sentence. If the user information is long, then you can use the multi-line text input control. And how we can create the multi-line text input control? Using the text area tag. Using the text area tag, we can create the multi-line text input control for the user. So this is the syntax. This is the syntax regarding the input tag. So first in form tag, inside the form tag there are different kinds of text input control. So first name, input type define text. That means user can enter the data in text form, and the name is regarding this box is the first name, and it is recognized by the end server or in the back end. How we can recognize this text box? So name specify the first name, specify this. In the back end, this text box is recognized by the first name. Okay, so another input, using the input type text, we can create another box like this, and this box regarding the last name. So inside the box, user can enter his or her last name. Now next is the password input control. This is also single line text input, but as I can discuss already with you people, but it masks the character. As soon as a user enter it. That means masks the character means hide the character. like this. They are also created using HTML using the input tag. So using the input tag, you define, if you are creating the password, then you defining the type. Type means type attribute. So what type attribute is? Password. So this box is created when the user enter his or her password. The password will be like this. Okay. Next, user ID, password. So this syntax regarding the password input control. Okay. Next, multi-line text input control. So I already discussed with you people. This is used when the user is required to give details that may be longer than a single sentence. If the user inputs more than one single line, suppose this one, then how the user can enter his or her details? So we can using the box multi-line text input control. So how we can create this multi-line text input control? Using the tag text area. So here is the syntax. Here is the syntax regarding the text area. So text area, rows is equal to 5, calls is equal to 50. It defines the rows and it defines the calls. So rows value is 5. That means there is certain boxes created by the text area and how the area is covered. So it will be defined by the rows and columns. Suppose if rows value is 5, that means 5 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 rows area cover, and how many columns? 50 columns. So like this, 15th column. So using this text area, the box, the output of this tag will be like this. And here you can define like enter description here. Okay. Next is the checkbox control. So checkbox are used when more than one option is required to be selected. If suppose that there are certain, like if my hobby is more than one and I am select the particular checkbox. So like my hobbies are swimming, like driving, like cricket, playing cricket, and many more. So inside the form, I am select more than one option. I am select this one, this one, this one. So if you are more than one option is required, then you can select more than one option through the checkbox. So they are also created using HTML input tag, but type attribute is set to checkbox like this. Here is your form tag, input type, and type define type it is the attribute regarding the input tag, and what we mention in the type, the value is checkbox. So the name, this is CS, value is equal to on, CSC, input type checkbox, name is equal to physics. So it looks like this is checkbox created regarding CSC and regarding the IT. Okay. So you can select this checkbox as per the user need. Next is the radio button control. So radio button are used when out of many options, just one option is required to be selected, like as gender. In gender, you can select only one option, male, female, like transgender or other. So among all of these options, you can select a particular gender. like mail. Okay, so using the radio button, out of many options, just one option is required to be selected. So how we can create the radio button in our HTML page? Using the input type radio. So input, when you are given the type attributes value is radio. So regarding this, one button is created. Regarding this button is created, and the what is the value regarding this? This is the HTML and this is your CSS. So among all of these options, you can select a particular one option, that is either HTML or either CSS. Okay. Next, select box control. So in previous slides, I am already discussed how we can create the select box, and how or at what time we can use select box. So select box, also called drop down box, which provide option to list down various options in the form of drop down list. Suppose if you want to create the drop down list regarding the subject or any other thing, so using the select box control, you can create the drop down list. Among the drop down list, you can select the particular option like this. This is the your form tag. Inside this is your select tag, and the select tag belong to the HTML. So select name is equal to drop down. So output look like this. So there are two options available in your select box. One is the math and other one is the physics. So math option is selected. That means math is visible on this particular box. But there are two options available, and these options are available by the drop down box. Then next is the file upload box. Using the file type, if you given input type is equal to file, that means you if you want to allow a user to upload a file to your website, you will need to use a file upload box. Using the type value is the file. So using this type attribute value is the file. That means you can upload the file onto the server. This is also created using the input element, but type attribute is set to the file. This is most important regarding the file upload box. So there is certain another attributes like name and accept. Name is specified and it is used to give a name to the control which is sent to the server to recognize and get the value. That means file is uploaded on the server. If there like this, here your file is comes from the user end, but how you can recognize this file? So using the name, you can recognize this particular file. Accept attribute, it define, it specify the types of files that the server accepts. Next is the button control. So using the button like submit, reset, send, and any other things, okay? Like image button also. So there are various ways in HTML to create clickable button. You can create the clickable button by using the input tag. So inside the input tag, you define the type is equal to like submit, or type would be like that reset. It is like submit, reset, or like wait a minute, button. So using the input tag, we can create a clickable button. So what types of buttons? Like submit. The type attribute can take the following values like submit. So submit like this. Reset like this. In submit, this create button that automatically submit a form. Like this is your form. Here some text field like this, and in below in your form there is a submit button. So how we can create the submit button? Using the input tag, we can create the button, but what type define? So set the type attribute to the button like submit, reset, button. Okay. This is regarding the submit. And the label element. Label tag defines a label from many form element. Label element is useful for screen reader because the screen reader will read out loud the label when the user focus on the input element. So basically, I will show you. So this is our code regarding the form. As you can see here, I am here defining the label. So label is bind up with the ID. So here is your ID, here is your label. So first name and here is the first name. So label is bind with the ID. So it is recognized when you click on particular this word, here there is certain borders look like. So this is the labeling. So labeling define the you can recognize the particular input field. So here input type text name, there is a placeholder defined like this, enter your first name. Okay, it is hint for the user what can enter the details regarding the first name, last name, etc, etc. So I am designing the form through the using the various input controls, and I am using inside this form various form control as well as various method attributes. Like here you can see action, I'm using the action backend.js. So JS, that means it define the JavaScript. So my backend is created on the JS. So this is regarding, like this is your checkbox. As you can see, checkbox is created through the input type is equal to checkbox. Here is the drop down list I am creating like this options. Here I am using inside this drop down list, I am using the option group label. So there are certain two drop down lists, one for the education and another for the academic. So inside the education there are certain various options available like PhD, MTech, BTech, MCA, BBA, BCA, and for option group label academic like 12th, 10th, 8th, etc, etc. So inside through that tag text area, I am creating the large text area in which user can enter multiple lines. So I will display, this is the our form I am creating for the U student registers portal. This is your first name, last name. This is your which type of field? Input text field boxes. So radio, it defined by the radio button. Date of birth, it is also defined by the type attribute. So like input type, and type is defined by the date of birth. Here is the checkbox. Many options are available through the checkbox: drawing, singing, dancing, sketching, and here is the box, and it is created by the text area box. Here is the file. You can upload the file. This is your image file. You can upload the file on click on the choose file option, and here is your submit and reset button. When the user enter his or her data and click on the submit button, user data is submitted to the server side. I hope this form is clear to all of you. Inside this form, methods, form controls, I already discussed with you people, is clear to all of you. Thank you and Jai Hind.